About the four-step principle. Remember when each new iPhone was so much better than its predecessor that it led to long lines outside stores when they were released? Today, that sounds a bit absurd, doesn't it? The first years of smartphones really showed a gigantic speed of development. Screens, cameras, bandwidths, sensors, and processors got significantly better every year, and with this followed a very high evolution rate of all the apps and services that were developed. But somewhere around 2014, queuing outside the stores slowed down. Several factors played a role here. Apple had already opened up for online pre-orders in 2012, so that you could buy your new device online and have it delivered on the release date. In addition, the improvement steps became smaller and smaller between each iteration. And a 2-year-old mobile was not very much worse than the latest model. The vast majority of apps and services also work regardless of whether the phone is new or old. Now let's say that instead of a smartphone, we are talking about another infrastructure, the modern transportation system. During its early development, major improvements were made in a relatively short time. Railways, the internal combustion engine, the road network, and the container are all examples of great leaps that fundamentally changed the conditions and possibilities. What we have now is a fantastic system of already paid for infrastructure that can be kept afloat year after year with only marginal maintenance. The Swedish Transport Administration, which is the authority responsible for all the state's road and rail infrastructure, works according to the so-called four-step principle. The idea with this is to use what we already have before building new. Step 1 is about rethinking and influencing behavior instead of the infrastructure itself. When this is done, you move on to step 2, which is about increasing the efficiency and utilization rate of the existing infrastructure. In step 3, existing infrastructure is rebuilt to better meet the existing requirements. And only in the last and fourth step, something new is actually built. I have long been of the opinion that this precautionary principle is a bit too cautious, that it slows down innovation and development, and that we as a society lose speed and momentum by avoiding building new at all costs. I mean, it's more fun to buy the latest iPhone, right? But now is not a gadget for a few $100 we're talking about, but 170,000 kilometers of roads, 16,000 bridges, and roughly 15,000 kilometers of tracks. And that's only in Sweden. Not to mention all the ports, cranes, quays, loading docks, airports, and more. Big stuff and big money. But in periods of rapid technological development, it's important to keep up with the overall development and to continuously build new skills and new abilities. Here we must be willing to actually build new, even though the old still works. The Stone Age didn't, as we all know, end because of a shortage of stone. However, in periods of consolidation, where some form of platform level has been achieved, it's significantly more important to work with utilization, marginal costs, and efficiency. A crayfish needs to grow into its new shell before it molts the next time. In the same way, we can reason about development, which is the size of the crayfish, and infrastructure, the capacity of the crayfish shell. In business, we often see examples of both these conditions. Consolidation, meaning steps 1 and 2, and building new or remodeling, meaning steps 3 and 4. The electrification of the transport system is an incredibly fast development, which of necessity drives many large investments, not only in charging stations, but also in upgrading existing electrical infrastructure. This requires courage, capital, and speed. Steps 3 and 4, then. But we also see how existing structures are used more and more, even in new ways. They get increased utilization and a large marginal benefit, often with digital help. Startups such as Microspace and Truck Trust create new uses for existing spaces, at very low marginal cost without having to build anything new, which are typical actions according to steps 1 to 2. ICA Paket uses the existing store network of Sweden's largest supermarket chain. The stores are upgraded with parcel boxes for deliveries of e-commerce shipments to consumers. These share the same transport infrastructure as the rest of the store network, which leads to the production cost being much lower than that of the competitors on the logistics market. Omniloop wants to upgrade waste suction systems and existing infraculverts in cities to also handle goods in specially designed capsules, something that requires some rebuilding of existing systems, but also an attitude of wanting to use these systems for something other than they were first built for, which is typical for steps 2 to 3. The list of initiatives inside the existing crayfish shell can be made long, and innovations are many and frequent. So, the 4-step principle is probably a sensible idea anyway, if it's applied correctly, that is. It should not be used as a way to avoid keeping up with technological developments. Thanks again for listening.